The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. All right, you're getting 4 episodes this week. I'm kind of making up for last week. Anyway, today I'm not going to do a long one today, but I did want to talk about a few things and then also set up tomorrow's episode. First of all, if you didn't get a chance to listen to yesterday's episode, I hope you go back and listen to it. It was really all about Libya and Muammar Gaddafi and just kind of trying to explain, again, another situation where, quite frankly, I think that, we've probably been sold a little bit of a bill of goods when it comes to, who Gaddafi was, what Gaddafi was, Libya, all that. So give a listen to that. I hope it's informative and insightful. I did get a lot of nice feedback on it, although my one buddy, Eric, texted me this morning and he's like, dude, you ended it by saying, I hope at least you get something out of this. And the something was that our entire lives have been one big lie. And so I started laughing. I'm like, wait, I didn't say that. He's like, no, but you basically said that I hope at a minimum you get that there's 2 sides to everything. And now I'm realizing you're right. There is 2 sides to everything. And so now I'm going back and questioning everything I've ever been told in my life. That was kind of funny, actually. But anyway, I think it was a really good episode. And, the reason it's important to understand the history when it comes to, again, Libya, Gaddafi, Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, all these people. I'm not fans of any of these people. I could care less, to be honest with you. But what I am a fan of is trying to determine what the truth was and trying to determine, what was really at play. Because in all honesty, if you are a person that thinks that every other country is bad and all these other people are bad and we as the United States are always good, I mean, come on. And by the way, again, I need to say this. I need to say this probably every episode. When I say the United States, I don't mean everyone in the United States. I mean a really small group of people that were in the government at that time. For example, George W. Bush, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, Paul Wolfowitz, Condoleezza Rice. That was not a good group of people, the neoconservatives, as I've called them. And then you can fast forward that and talk about, again, the Uniparty folks such as the Pelosi's of the world, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Dan Crenshaw, even Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, by the way, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Who else? Marco Rubio, who now is the Secretary of State on the Republican side. I really should start, every time I name a Democrat, I should start naming a Republican. So I will start doing that. You've got all of these guys. They're honestly, right now, I'm not kidding. I think the only 2 guys that in my book are really stand-up guys are Thomas Massie and Rand Paul, and in that order. And I really think Thomas Massie is the number 1 guy. And by the way, this is crazy. So Trump is going after Thomas Massie now. Thomas Massie is the only guy in Congress who does not accept money from these political activist groups, and namely from AIPAC, which is the big group that is, the American Israeli lobby. He's the only guy that doesn't accept money. 0. He's accepted 0. Every single other Republican and every single other Democrat has accepted money from AIPAC among hundreds of other political activist committees and groups. So think about that. And then yesterday, Trump came out and attacked Thomas Massie. He said, Thomas Massie needs to be primaried, and I'm going to lead the charge. And so, by the way, man, that's not a good look for Trump. It's not a good look for Trump. And it wasn't received well at all by a big group of people online. So that feeds into kind of what I've talked about a few times now. And that is, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a fan of what's going on. I think there's something nefarious happening behind the scenes. And so as much as I want to, just put all the bad behind us and charge ahead, I think there might be a different kind of bad coming, and it's going to be interesting. But anyway, my point today was to just come on and talk about a few things. First of all, I want to set up tomorrow's episode. So I'm still waiting for Alan's episode to get edited, and therefore I ended up recording yesterday with a guy named Greg Stoker. Some of you might recognize him online. He has a really big following online, and he's a former U.S. Army Ranger specializing in intelligence, and incredibly smart guy, super savvy, and he really is going to talk tomorrow about a few different things. We're going to talk about this Palestinian student that was basically like kidnapped. I mean, he pretty much was, by ICE and the Trump administration, and they're trying to deport him. His name is Mahmoud Khalil. I don't know if you guys have heard about him or not, but I am going to talk about him a little bit in a second. And so Greg's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about, what's going on in Syria a little bit with the overthrowing of, Bashar al-Assad, which was a couple months ago. But then, like I talked about, I think on Tuesday's episode, there was a bunch of killing that took place over the weekend in Syria. So it looks like they're firing up Syria again, and there's going to be all kinds of chaos there. But the most important thing Greg talks about tomorrow is trying to help us, and when I say us, I'm included in that, understand the difference between like the leftist Democrat versus the liberal Democrat. And what I shared with Greg was, I said, I don't think most people think that the Democratic Party is divided like that. They kind of just consider everybody, quote unquote, the left. And so when you use the word left, leftist, lefty, or liberal, or Democrat, you're basically referring to all of them in a collective set. And he's kind of helped me understand that's really not the case. And so you've got liberal Democrats, which is the Bidens, Kamala Harris, Obama, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, all of the folks that, many people also consider part of the Uniparty. And then you've got leftists, and leftists, really the only one that comes to mind is Bernie Sanders. And so I think that when people say leftist, it's really talking about kind of like the progressive movement within the Democratic Party. And like I said, I think Bernie Sanders is probably the best example of that. Maybe the only example of that, actually. I think some people think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, who is always been kind of linked with Bernie Sanders, but you'll hear from Greg on that tomorrow. So anyway, I did want to set that episode up. He's a super intelligent, intellectual guy, and I told him, I said, dude, you got to dumb it down, man. I'm not saying my audience is dumb. I'm saying I'm dumb. So you need to dumb this down for all of us and make sure, you realize not everyone is on your level when it comes to, I guess, the nuance of it. So I think he actually did do a really good job of it. It's about a 54-minute interview, and I'll release that tomorrow on Friday. That way you've got the weekend to listen to it. But it's very interesting, and I think you'll learn a lot from that interview. Okay, let's shift gears real quick. And, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, this situation going on with this young, he's not that young, 30-year-old guy that all of a sudden has been detained and arrested. And it is all about his involvement in the protests at Columbia University from last summer. I mean, think about it. From last summer, that he was part of that protest of those college campuses. And again, if you've been listening to the Deep Shallow Dive since then, you know that, I brought several guests, Elijah Kallenberg probably being the best, who was part of that college protest situation. And Elijah is, a Jewish student that led the protests at the University of Texas, at UT. And he's really helped me understand that those protests last summer, up until whatever is even happening to this day, are a unity of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim students and faculty. How crazy is that? Like the Jewish, Muslim, and Christian students and faculty are all united, and they're all united under the fact that they simply don't want innocent women and children in Gaza to be killed. That's it. That's it. Everything else you're hearing is all spin rhetoric. And that's also partly why I did the episode on Gaddafi and Libya yesterday, because, I really hope you guys are starting to just look at things a little bit differently and be willing to ask some questions and be willing to not just accept what you're being told in terms of the media, because again, that's been going on our entire lives. It really has, our entire lives. And I think there's a good amount of people that are tired of that. And even if you're not tired of it, like I'm not saying I'm tired of it, I just am willing to dissect it now. And I'm willing to be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. And so when it came to the college campus protests last summer, I mean, I talked to kids on campus and they told me, they're like, dude, there's nothing mean going on here. And we are not being anti-Semitic. We literally are just saying, stop killing women and children. So that's that. Anyway, all right, let me play just a few things here.
We found out.
Yes, it's Candace Owens. What can I say? She's just good, man. And she explains things in simple terms.
Via a tweet yesterday that he had arrested a person named Mahmoud Khalil. Then the White House blared this out across their social media pages, writing on top of a photo of this student activist, Shalom Mahmoud. They called him a pro-Hamas student.
All right, I did need to comment on this. So literally the White House put out his picture and it said Shalom Mahmoud. And obviously shalom is a Hebrew Jewish word. So you have to decide if you think that's appropriate coming from the White House.
And obviously, people are then going to look into this person because this is an example of the policy. You said illegal protesting. So I thought, okay, this is going to be pretty simple. But something else was presented to the public. Okay, here are the facts. Yes, he is a Palestinian activist. His name is Mahmoud Khalil. He was, in fact, detained by ICE over Columbia University protests.
Okay, again, remember, these are protests from last summer. And so now all of a sudden, in the Trump administration, ICE is going back in time and detaining him from protests that happened last summer. Why didn't ICE detain him last summer?
He had completed work on his master's degree from Columbia University in December, but he is a legal resident of the United States, okay? He is a green card holder. That is very different from somebody who is here on a student visa, okay? That means you essentially have all of the rights that are afforded to you. You can't vote, but you can have legal green card residency for a very long time. So he was arrested and detained by federal agents after his lawyer said that his green card was revoked by the Trump administration, despite the fact that he hadn't been arrested. for engaging in illegal protests. So that made me go, okay, wait, what's this? What's going on? His attorney, a woman named Amy Greer, said that Khalil's wife, who is in fact an American citizen, was also present during his arrest, and she's 8 months pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant. She finds out her green card holding legal permanent resident husband is about to be kicked out of the country, and he hasn't been arrested yet. So I'm going, there must be something here that we're missing.
Now, remember, when she says he hasn't been arrested and charged with any crime, but they scooped the guy up when he was walking back from dinner with his wife. And again, his 8-month pregnant wife. They were coming back from, I think it's called like iftar dinner. It has something to do with Ramadan. And literally ICE basically almost like kidnapped the guy. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's clear evidence that they just rolled up on the house and they just scooped him up and took him. And they took him to some detention center in Louisiana, of all places. And then they did not let him talk to his attorney. I don't know if they've even talked. I don't know if they've even allowed him to speak to his attorney yet. And it's been a couple days. All right, let's listen to the rest of this.
Okay, clearly, I got to kind of get through all of the fodder on social media because, you're going to get, he was a Hamas reporter. I've been called a Hamas supporter for pointing out that I don't like dead children that are Palestinian. That's why I don't react when I hear these names. I actually look for the truth. I look for the source. I want to hear what he said, and I want to see what he did. Now, I can tell you that, and I would say, until we get answers, this is actually something I agree with. A federal judge has moved to block the effort of the Trump administration to deport him. Judge Jesse Furman ordered a hearing on the case to be held on Wednesday morning in New York City. And so I will be following that tomorrow because I don't understand why he was selected to be deported. People are outraged because despite making a giant splash and announcing his arrest, the politicians in the follow-up discussions seem completely unable to answer specific questions about which law he broke.
All right. Again, the reason I'm playing this and the reason I'm explaining it a little bit is, I know this doesn't probably apply to 99% of you, okay? And you're probably like, oh, this will never happen to me. But I'm telling you, you have to get out of that mindset. And again, I know this kid is totally different. Hell, he's different than me. I'm a U.S. citizen and have been one for 20 plus years. So like in my mind, initially, I was like, oh man, that sucks for that kid, but that'll never happen to me. But you can't think about it like that. Like things like this are unprecedented. And again, this really comes back to this First Amendment freedom of speech. And I'll tell you, it is very disheartening that the entire Republican, conservative, Trump organization and all the talking heads for 4 years were pounding the drum that the Biden administration was stomping on their freedom of speech. And they are literally doing the exact same thing with this kid. And so that's concerning because it could start there, but who knows where it could go from there.
They're just kind of reminding us that, well, green card holders can be revoked at any time. Okay, yeah, sure. But you don't like his speech? You don't like his opinion? Is that what we're getting at? And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, who was pointedly asked about which law this individual broke.
All right, seriously, pay attention. You guys know I'm not a fan of Mike Johnson. I think he's part of that uniparty group of, career politicians. But just pay attention to what he says. And again, remember, we're looking for a law that's broken. We're looking for a cause for arrest. You've got to be charged with something illegal.
And he's going to say a lot of words, but he's also going to say absolutely nothing. Take a listen.
Speaker, yeah. In your estimation, what crime did Mahmoud Khalil commit to warrant his arrest, detention, and the potential revocation of his green card?
This madness has to stop. We have to get control of it. This guy apparently was a mastermind of those very things when the gnashing of teeth and the ripping of clothes and the people screaming at me, wanting to rip me limb from limb because I was there talking about moral clarity and how there's a right and a wrong. They were doing that. They disrupted the campus. They were threatening physical violence to their fellow students. If you're on a student visa, I'm going to say this clearly. If you are on a student visa and you're in America and you're an aspiring young terrorist who wants to prey upon your Jewish classmates, you're going home.
All right, so really quick, he did not do any of that. And the reason I say that is because literally Jewish, Muslim, Christian students, faculty, and advocacy groups, and especially the Jewish advocacy groups, have come out and basically defended him. And they said there's literally no evidence of him doing any of that. He was part of the peaceful protests that they were all part of.
We're going to arrest your tail, and we're going to send you home where you belong. And this is just getting started. So, look, I appreciate free speech. I used to defend it in courts, but this is far beyond the pale of that. When you are threatening your classmates and spewing anti-Semitism and all this hatred, it's enough. And I think the American people understand that. They're supporting it. And I'm glad we have a president who's strong enough to lay down the law. Thanks a lot.
All right, I assume Candace is going to rip him, but he said nothing in that, absolutely nothing. And again, if you do actual research, he didn't do any of that, the kid, I'm saying.
Lot of words to not tell us what exactly Mahmoud Khalil himself did. He was apparently a mastermind. What? What do you mean, apparently a mastermind? What are you talking about? So Caroline Leavitt, who is the White House press secretary, was predictably questioned about his arrest today as well. And here is what she says his crime was. Take a listen.
Does the administration believe that it needs to charge a green card holder with a crime to be eligible for deportation?
All right, again, this stuff is important, man. Pay attention. Listen to this answer.
Well, in fact, Secretary Rubio reserves the right to revoke the visa of Mahmoud Khalil, and I'm glad you brought this up. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke a green card or a visa for individuals who serve or are adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America. This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda.
Man, this stuff is just so calculated and so twisted. All right, listen, I'm going to play the rest of this. Listen, you guys decide what you think about it. I'm honestly not trying to influence your opinion on it. I just, again, it doesn't feel right to me. It absolutely doesn't feel right to go after this kid, 9 months after the fact. And again, I will tell you this, if those protests last summer on those college campuses were protesting the Russia-Ukraine war, we would not even be having any of this right now.
Flyers with the logo of Hamas. That is what the behavior and activity that this individual engaged in.
Sorry, I can't help myself. She just said flyers with the logo of Hamas. Dude, it's like street marketing.
And I have those flyers on my desk. They were provided to me by the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay, so she is alleging that he distributed materials that are sitting on her desk. Would it not be prudent to just release those flyers? Wouldn't you quiet the noise immediately if what you're saying is true? And there's no reason for us to doubt that what you're saying is true. It's a different answer than everybody else is giving. You're saying he distributed materials that were in support of murder, I'm assuming. And therefore, by the way, I would imagine that he could have been arrested for that. It seems weird that he wasn't arrested by Columbia University, that he didn't get into any trouble with the police at Columbia University, but now he's in trouble with the feds. That seems like a remarkable jump there in the process. Why not release those flyers? Wouldn't that make sense to you? And are we supposed to all magically forget, while this is going on, that back in 2020, Bibi Netanyahu was sounding like a gangster, saying that he was going to get speech laws passed in America and any person that boycotted Israel would themselves suffer.
So this is Netanyahu in Hebrew. I'm going to just read the transcription. Whoever boycotts us will themselves be boycotted. In the last few years, we're going to pass laws in the United States that anyone who boycotts Israel will themselves be boycotted. We don't care, and we are fighting it.
It seems increasingly that we are abandoning our values. Again, I had these same values when people were taking extraordinary efforts under the Biden regime's DOJ to go after American citizens for practicing their speech and rightfully assembling.
I mean, seriously, Trump himself has talked so much about how Biden weaponized the DOJ and went after his right to freedom of speech. All of his supporters did the exact same thing. They said the Biden administration has weaponized the justice system to go after our rights for freedom of speech and all of that.
It seems increasingly that we are abandoning our values. Again, I had these same values when people were taking extraordinary efforts under the Biden regime's DOJ to go after American citizens for practicing their speech and rightfully assembling to support Donald Trump. And this feels like the exact same thing in both regards, calling people terrorists and telling people not to look at the details. And I'm looking at the details. I'm looking for the details, and I'm happy to correct this report if more comes out. But don't put that on us. Don't say, well, how dare you ask for more questions? Okay, you are the ones who waved this flag. You are the ones who put it all on White House and said, look what we did. We're so proud of this. And now people are saying we didn't answer, because we can't just be kicking out legal permanent residents because they've spoken in ways that we disagree with. If he called for death, murder, the slaughter of children, I'm willing to partner with you. But at this moment, I don't see it.
She's a beast, man. She just is a beast. I seriously would not be surprised. Well, I don't know. She's not uniparty enough to eventually be the first female president. But man, if I had to pick a female president right now, it would be Candace Owens. It absolutely would. Holy mackerel. And she's only like 35 years old. I think she is incredibly savvy. I really do. I think she's super sharp. Okay, anyway, I'm at 26 minutes. I had a couple other clips, but you get the gist, okay? You get the gist. Now, I will follow this story, and listen, if it actually comes out with real evidence that this Mahmoud Khalil guy was a real terror and he did kind of wreak havoc and, physically, emotionally, mentally mastermind, Jewish kids at Columbia getting harassed and hurt, I'll totally agree with getting rid of him, whether his wife is 8 months pregnant or not. Like, I'm completely on board with that. But it doesn't seem that's the case. It just really doesn't. And again, I thought she made a great point in, if he had been so evil and so bad, 9 months ago, why was he not arrested 9 months ago? And why was he not, questioned or anything? I mean, anything 9 months ago by Columbia University, by the police, by the feds 9 months ago. So, this is kind of feeding into this like association and affiliation that the Trump administration has going on right now. So I don't know, man. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. Again, I know they're two different administrations, Biden and Trump, but like I said, when this happened 9 months ago at Columbia, this kid was not anything. He was on nobody's radar. And so why all of the sudden he is the one singled out? Probably because he is a green card holder, permanent resident. And maybe that's where they're starting. They're saying, okay, let's start with the folks that are not citizens. Let's put the fear of God into anybody to talk bad about. I mean, it's really Israel. It really is. Like I said, I don't think if this kid had been a part of protests against Russia, Ukraine, China, Iran, I don't think we would be in this situation. So anyway, that's backstory. Like I said, I reserve the right to completely change my opinion on this, and I reserve the right to come back and maybe agree with what's taking place. But based on the fact set that is currently there, and it's there by pretty much everybody else except the Trump administration, it doesn't feel right. So all right, that's that. What else? Well, just enjoy tomorrow's episode with Greg and catch up if you didn't listen to the episode on Tuesday, which was the Trump report card episode, followed up by the Libya episode. Man, those are two deep, shallow dives right there. So anyway, all right, everybody. Hope you're enjoying. Again, feedback is always welcomed, always appreciated. There is nothing I like more than waking up to a bunch of text messages from friends on the East Coast and Midwest or DMs and all that. And by the way, don't worry, you'll never wake me up because my do not disturb on my phone is set. It is set until a proper hour of till I wake. Actually, I think it's set to like 6:30, something like that, because that's normally when I get up. So I don't like to hear the ding ding on my phone before that. So that's it. All right. Call a spade a spade. Keep your mind open to everything that's going on. And, I will say this, and there's a clip from a very good friend I'm going to play probably next week. And I guess what I want to say is don't have Trump derangement syndrome, but please don't also have Trump worship syndrome. We can't have either one of those things. And more than anything right now, you've got to look objectively at what's going on. And again, if you are on the pro-Trump side, I get it. I get you're happy that he won and you're happy that Kamala is not in the White House. I'm very happy she's not in the White House. I think that would have been a complete disaster. But I'm not happy at the way things are going. I'm not happy at the volatility of things. I'm not happy at Trump promoting Tesla vehicles. I don't know if you guys saw that, but they did like a, I don't know what it was. It was like a press event or a promo event where Trump was getting in the new Tesla Roadster, which actually looks really nice. It was like a red Tesla Roadster, and it was him and Elon, but it was super goofy, and that's just not appropriate. Like, that is not appropriate. I didn't care for that, and again, any of you that are super Trump fans, the best way to analyze if something that he did is appropriate or not appropriate is do a role reversal and imagine Biden doing that. So if Biden had posed with, I don't know, somebody else who was promoting their vehicle, you'd go ballistic. You would absolutely go ballistic. So that's what I do a lot of times. I'll be like, okay, let me do a role reversal. If that was Biden doing it, man, I would not be happy about that. So therefore, I'm not going to be happy about it when Trump is doing it. And if you haven't seen it, just Google it. It's just not appropriate. It's like, He's obviously doing Elon a solid. Tesla stock is definitely, I think it's down 25% since Trump came into office. Although that stock is a roller coaster, man. If you've played that stock right, you've made a lot of money. But anyway, all right, that's it, everybody. Have a great day or night and enjoy tomorrow's episode with Greg Stoker. And we will talk to you soon.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.